Ducati has given us a new MotoGP super team. Marc Marquez has joined Pecco Bagnaia in the factory Ducati red garage. It is a partnership that on paper seems destined for acrimony, seems destined for a feud. Valentino Rossi, Jorge Lorenzo style wall in the middle of the garage. Or at least that's what some people would have you believe. That sounded very conspiratorial, but you know what I mean. Simon, I don't think you agree that this is a partnership that is destined for acrimony, that is destined for a feud.
I think it's a complete nonsense theory. I haven't seen anything from either of these two guys that in any way suggest that we're in for that. It's not in their character. It's not in Pecco Bagnaia's character. I mean, we've just seen this guy lose the championship in the most polite way that anyone has ever lost a championship. He has done nothing but praise Jorge Martin since the final race of the year. You know, whenever someone is going out of their way to not give TV interviews or to give very brief TV interviews, to not take the spotlight away from their bitter rival on their big day, then they're obviously not the sort of person to go looking for this sort of thing. We've had arguably the most polite title fight in history of motorsport this year between these two guys. So there's nothing about Pecco Bagnaia's character that in any way makes me think he's going to go looking for a feud with Marc Marquez next year. And then on the other side of the garage, Marc Marquez isn't that guy either. I mean, obviously he's had one huge feud in his time in MotoGP with Valentino Rossi, but I mean, let's be honest, Rossi started that and not Marquez. That was Valentino Rossi's doing. Sure, Marquez might have responded, he might have come back fairly aggressively towards it, but he wasn't the instigator of it, and he's never really been the instigator of any off-track drama in MotoGP. Yes, he's super aggressive on the track, and yes, he does his thing, and if you get in the way, that's your loss. You know, that seems to be the way that he treats his rivals on the track, but off the track it's not the case at all. So I don't see anything about them that makes me think that we're in for some sort of an explosive Lorenzo Rossi-esque wall down the middle of the garage next year. They're just not the people for it.
We've also just seen a title battle where Pecco, ideally, in terms of strategy, needed to back up the field towards Jorge Martin and actively refused to do it. Told us in Sepang, I will not do it. Then told us in Valencia again, I will not do it. Refused to do it, didn't do it, lost the championship. Maybe that kind of tactic could have helped him, but that is not the way he wanted to win it if that would have led to him winning it. That is Pecco, and Pecco is not a conflict character. I agree with you. You know, the one flashpoint he's had this season, obviously he's already collided with Marc once this season. He's already collided with Marc's brother Alex Marquez this season. That was the big flashpoint, that was the big disagreement, led to some pretty harsh words said in the moment or almost immediately walked back. There were, in the lead up to his title defeat, there was sort of a feeling Pecco might try to point to that Alex Marquez collision as what's cost him, because that's, 16 points or whatever. Yeah, it would have been a 16, 13 points. He lost the championship by 10 points. He seems to have generally let it go, or at least let it go in public. He did not point to it very much in the aftermath of the title defeat. But on track, things do happen with these two. With Marc Marquez, things happen. They happen all the time. I mean, the record is clear and it's obvious, and I'm sure you can name many instances. With Pecco, I mean, he's had the Alex Marquez collision, he's had the Marc collision, which wasn't acrimonious, wasn't totally friendly, and he's had the Maverick Vinales collision last year. Is this the kind of relationship that will easily survive another on-track powwow if they are the two riders fighting for the championship next year?
I mean, he's had one of these on-track collisions with Jorge Martin, arguably while the two were fighting for the championship in Qatar. He's come together with lots of his rivals over the years. It's the nature of modern MotoGP. It's the super close racing, the super small gaps between the bikes, especially the same bikes like they're going to be on next year. And the way that the tyres are working right now, that means it's difficult to overtake, and things all become very compressed and risky. But I think both of these guys are intelligent enough to really understand that, to know that it's part of the game right now. We've seen neither of them hold a grudge. We've seen neither of them really come out with super strong language attacking the other for various things. We know that Bagnaia had strong feelings about what happened back in Portimao at the start of the season with Marc Marquez, and about where the blame lay, and that the Marquez camp quite strongly disagreed with that and felt the blame lay on the other side. But you know what? The two of them got over it. The two of them went back fairly immediately to being on pretty good terms with each other. And I'm not saying that as as someone that watches them on screen. I'm saying that as someone that interacts with these guys in press conferences and debriefs in the paddock on a regular basis. They're friendly with each other. We see it every day we're here working with them. So there's no acrimony there. And then you look at the incident in Aragon with Alex Marquez, with Marc's little brother, where you would have expected Marc, and where we've seen Marc in the past very vociferously come out and defend his brother. This time he was fairly notably quiet about what happened. And I think a bit of that was to try and just make sure he didn't rock the boat ahead of his move to the factory colours next year, and to working on a regular basis with Pecco Bagnaia.
The shadow of Valentino Rossi looms large here in this situation. Ultimately, the defining feud here is the feud between Marc Marquez and the mentor of Pecco Bagnaia, the 7-time world champion, MotoGP world champion, instead of the 2-time MotoGP world champion. And I'm not going to presume to know how Bagnaia feels about that feud as a whole. Obviously, we don't know. He's quite wisely avoided talking about it on record, smart decision. But that's not his fight. You do get sort of the feeling that is not necessarily his fight, and that he does not want this upcoming season to exist in the shadow of this fight. But I would also argue that this upcoming championship matters more to Pecco Bagnaia and to Pecco Bagnaia's legacy than the defeat to Jorge Martin this season. If you were to offer Pecco Bagnaia, you lose the 24 one, but you beat Marc Marquez to the title in 25, I think he signs 10 times out of 10. I think there's an unspoken understanding in this paddock that that's his legacy fight coming up.
Him and I have spoken about this on the record over the years, where he very much believes that he's not going to be a MotoGP great. He's not going to be remembered as one of the guys at the very, very top until he's defeated one of the previous generation of greats, which essentially is a generation of one. It's Marc Marquez right now. So he sees the opportunity next year to beat Marc Marquez on equal machinery, on the exact same bike as him, in the other side of the garage. If he beats him next year, there is no question mark over anyone having a performance advantage, over anyone having an edge on the other, thanks to the manufacturer, the support they're getting. They start the season, the same guy, the same machine, and it's a man-to-man fight. It's perfect for what he needs it to be, because if he wins next year, his 3rd championship in 4 years, he's a MotoGP great. He has established himself as arguably the first guy since Jorge Lorenzo to beat Marc Marquez in a straight championship fight, and arguably even more than what Lorenzo did, because that year's 2015 Honda was a much more difficult bike than the perfect GP25 that both of these guys are going to have next season.
We've had two guys on the grid we've heard from say it's Marc's to lose next season already, which must not feel great to the incumbent in that team. I've said that this is the new super team, the previous super teams that we had most recently, Marc Marquez and Jorge Lorenzo, Repsol Honda, Marc Marquez and Joan Mir, both of those things ended up super one-sided. Any real danger of that here?
No. I mean, I don't think we've ever had a super team quite like this one. I need to establish that. We've had teams before where there's been 2 great riders, but I don't think we've ever had a team where there's been 2 great riders and a truly amazing motorbike that was way above everything else. Because even if you go back to, I guess, Lorenzo and Rossi at Yamaha, Stoner was there in the Ducati, the Honda wasn't far away with Pedrosa, there were other bikes in the mix. Whereas right now, we fully expect to start next season with the GP25 Ducati a mile in front of everyone else, apart from maybe the GP24 machines. They're going to have a clear machinery advantage over everyone else in the grid. There's only 2 of them, essentially, unless something really impressive happens from Fabio Di Gianantonio, that are going to be at that sharp end. It's the most clear-cut 2-man fight we've ever seen.